Hello, and welcome to our first midweek session for the month of October. The divine services in this month will focus on how we can experience the presence of God today and every day. God is everywhere because He is omnipresent. So we might think, shouldn't it be easy to experience God? Experiencing God requires an awareness of His presence as well as a connection with Him. Over the course of our lifetime, our relationship with Him can deepen when we strive to make this connection stronger. This is how our faith matures. On this journey of becoming more and more like Jesus, we should constantly compare ourselves to the example that He set for us. And in looking at Jesus' example, we can see that He regularly exercised spiritual disciplines or habits to connect with His Father. Jesus prayed, He fasted, studied the Scriptures, and practiced solitude, just to name a few. These are all spiritual disciplines that we are expected to practice as well. Now, maybe you've heard of the term spiritual disciplines before. This term discipline usually conjures up some negative feelings because we might associate that word with punishment or being reprimanded, like the way you would discipline a child after they've done something wrong. But in this context, the word discipline refers to training and dedication to creating good habits. Spiritual disciplines are not about punishment. They're behaviors and activities that equip you to be sustainably engaged in a deepening relationship with God. In his first letter to Timothy, Apostle Paul compares what we might call spiritual training to physical training. In chapter 4, we read, "Exercise yourself toward godliness. For bodily exercise profits a little, but godliness is profitable for all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come." Now, you might think, well, that type of spiritual training is intended for ordained ministers or for holy people, but that's not true. A true follower of Jesus longs to know the heart of God. The psalmist says in chapter 42 that as the deer pants for the water brooks, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Can we also say that our soul thirsts for God? He created in us a need for connection with Him, but He gives us the free will to choose to love Him or not. If you've made the choice to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to strive for eternal fellowship with Him, then you need to believe and follow the teachings and example of His Son. In order to be disciples of Jesus, we must be disciplined in His teachings. Of course, spiritual disciplines can be challenging. They require you to be intentional and exercise self-control. To be a disciple of Jesus requires us to be open to His teaching and, yes, even correction, and thereby transformation. On their own, spiritual disciplines as an activity or behavior don't transform us. They're not about checking off a list of behaviors so that we can feel satisfied. In other words, spiritual disciplines are not an end, but rather the means. We don't become godly because we practice spiritual disciplines, but rather because of the work God does in us when we intentionally create the time and space to connect with Him through spiritual disciplines. Such spiritual habits allow us to place ourselves before God so that He can transform us. The necessary growth and transformation can only happen when our motives are genuine and we sincerely want to connect with God, instead of trying to look the part or wanting to impress our neighbors. Now, in addition to the disciplines I've mentioned at the beginning, including prayer, fasting, Scripture, and solitude, there are other disciplines too, such as worship, obedience, service, confession, giving, and meditation. This month, we'll explore the spiritual disciplines of studying Scripture, fasting, and silence and solitude. As you consider each of these disciplines, remember that it's not just about the activity itself, but about the attitude and motive with which you approach that discipline. Spiritual disciplines are not about doing, but rather about being. So I encourage you to intentionally make time and space to be with God so that He can transform you to become more like Jesus.